Hi everyone, and thank you so much for stopping by to see this video. This was a painting that I really challenged myself with. I don't paint large paintings, I do not paint landscapes, or I should say I really haven't. I'm very much comfortable with my portrait painting, which I'm able to do all in one session even if it takes many hours, and this pushed me to my limits because I had to layer and do so many different things I never had to do, and it was a really amazing experience, so I wanted to take you along with me. As you can see, I did a underpainting. This is light red or Venetian red. I just really like how vibrant it is, and I think it made the blues stand out, and the greens kind of pop more against the background. As you can see here, I'm painting around the little lily pads that I sketched out, giving myself a little bit of grace, of course, because it's kind of a challenging part to do all these little circles on a canvas texture. If you know, you know, the canvas texture is a very challenging one to work with if you're used to flat primed surfaces. So here I chose this reference painting from a random website because I loved the way that the light reflected. I've wanted to paint lily pads for a very long time. I'm very inspired by Monet's painting and how many colors he manages to fit in that one, water scene. I'm talking about the lilies painting, in case that wasn't clear. And I just love it so much, and this really pushed me. So I laid down the colors that I saw in the reflection, and I think I started off pretty dark because the actual lily pads I went through and changed several times throughout the course of this. You'll see right now they're a very blue toned color, and later on they're going to be much more warm toned because even though this was accurate to the photo, it didn't really seem real to me. It seemed much too cool toned, and I wanted the picture to be very rich, and I don't know, there was something about these lilies that was really frustrating for me. I did a little practice using colors from the Monet painting on my sketchbook, and I really loved how those turned out, so it gave me a lot of confidence to start in with this. I was comfortable laying down the reflection of the lily pads in the water, which is the dark circles I do underneath it, and then the reflection of the light on the lilies, which is the little white rings that I put around it. But because of the reference photo, I ended up kind of getting in my head while I was actually painting this, and I didn't do the little light reflections. It's hard to explain, but in the end, I just gave up on trying to make it look exactly like the reference photo. As you'll see, I went back and changed it. And that's okay. I don't think your paintings should have to look exactly like a reference photo. I think that's where the originality comes in, but I wanted it to have a little bit of break from the water because it was really exhausting. I had spent, I think, maybe 16 hours on it, which I know sounds like a crazy amount of time, but there was a lot of layering and a lot of tiny precise details, so I switched back and forth between painting the rocks, which I have literally never painted before, which sounds dramatic, but I just have never painted rocks before. Same with greenery. I don't really do that very frequently, so it was kind of challenging, and I decided to just lay down the values, specifically where the shadows were and where the highlights were, and maybe learn a little bit more about Impressionism, because that was my goal with this painting, is to learn how to be a little bit more impressionistic. So I started by laying down all the values I could see, and it was fine. It helped me, somebody who's very used to seeing a complete portrait emerge from beneath the paintbrush because I don't layer with my portraits. It helped me be patient and not get in my head and think, well, I might as well give up because it doesn't look good yet. And that is something that all artists should learn, is that, you know what, you're probably going to hate your painting until the last second, and if you don't, I mean, that is an amazing skill set, and I wish that I had that. These little windows, as you can see, I put down some blue, like some dark Prussian blue for the, I mean, I don't really know the anatomy of a window, but is like the little metal things that hold the stained glass together. And my thought was, if I can lay down these colors, then I can kind of carve out the precise shapes with the paint, and I think it was okay. The stained glass in the windows was very strangely shaped, so I'm not really sure if it ended up looking like stained glass like I wanted it to. This was actually really relaxing. Again, this painting took a very long time, obviously, and I usually did it in about 8-hour sessions. As you can imagine, it's something that you need to have a lot of patience for, or you need to have, a good podcast to listen to. At this point, I had set the painting aside in my studio for a while. I was getting really frustrated because it wasn't in my skill set yet. So I took a break and I came back to it with fresh eyes. The colors seemed a little dull to me, so I went through with really, really dark, much darker blues and much warmer greens. And I went back through and carved out the reflections in the water. And it was like starting from new, but it really did re-inspire me to continue with the painting because the color scheme was just something I was much more comfortable with. So it was a way to find some comfort in a very uncomfortable process. Another thing that was challenging was the little bamboo leaves. I pretty much painted this entire painting with really small brushes, which is fine. Again, that's what I'm used to. But with the canvas texture underneath, it was hard to be very precise. So it was a balance between thinning medium and, having a lot of paint on my brush. Although I really like how these little grass things turned out. I haven't painted anything like them before, but I think they ended up looking pretty cool. And same with the little leaves and the vegetation around the little pond. I really enjoyed it, and it kind of made me super excited to see the final product. And then the next day after I had done the reflections and so on, I went through and I did the highlights of the lily pads in the way that I wanted to. Maybe not the way that the painting showed, and maybe not the most photorealistic way, but I ended up really liking how they turned out. And I also overpainted a little bit, again trying to make it look too much like the reference photo. So at certain points I went through and just carved things out to make them look more, more symmetrical, more pleasing to my eye. And yeah, it was overall a very interesting process, a very challenging one, but probably one of my favorite painting processes I've ever done, because I just listened to crime podcasts for cumulative, I don't know how many hours it took me to paint this, but I'm really happy with the final result, and I think it looks really cool, and I really enjoyed doing it. Let me know what you think, and if you have any tips, especially for painting on a rough canvas, because I didn't really prime it. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy, and please share with somebody if they need to get out of an art block, because this definitely helped me get out of my art block. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.